Welcome to a new edition of Win TV. I'm your host, Denise Rollard Barnes, bringing you news that matters. I'm so happy to have you all here with us again today on this Friday, July the 30th. Can you believe it? The summer is almost over. But anyway, enjoy every day that you can, every last day of this summer season. It's been interesting, but hopefully we'll look back on it and say that we've had some wonderful experiences. As I said, if you're on Facebook, please hit share. I think there's a button over there someplace. Just push share and share the program with your friends and everyone. Tell them to join us here today. And if you're on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Washington Informer TV. You know, you can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. And be sure to pick up a copy of this week's issue of the Washington Informer or read it, the latest issue, online at washingtoninformer.com. Be sure to stay tuned to the show, what we call Win TV After Hour, 1 hour, with WI Bridge TV with the media prints and sounds of the DMV. So as I said, when we end, Bridge TV comes in. So don't go away. Continue to watch once we say goodbye. And, you know, we have a great show today. And I want to say, if you have a young person in your house who's working that summer job and spending every last cent they have, you're trying to get them to save and they don't understand why. Well, we have a conversation for you. Whitman Ochiai, who will be attending Cornell University in the fall, congratulations, hosts a financial literacy podcast program called Money Ed. And he aims this program specifically for young earners. So if you have one of them sitting next to you, bring them over to your computer screen or just take notes so that you have something to share with them after the program, because I know Whitman has some great recommendations. And sadly, you know, evictions are looming for renters all across America with the lifting of the National Federal Eviction Moratorium, which happens tomorrow. Freelance reporter Barrington Salmon conducted an investigation on behalf of the Washington Informer for a report, a 3-part report we'll be publishing in the coming weeks that studied how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted DC renters and what the coming months may unfold when the moratorium ends. So stay tuned because we definitely want to look at how that is going to impact people, but we really want to provide information and resources so that families are not displaced and, you know, there's answers to the questions that you may have about what to do and how the moratorium is going to impact you. You know, there's been a great conversation going on, rightfully so, about public safety and gun violence. And it's at the top of our minds as local residents, but also all across the country. But there are solutions. And as we look at our solutions series, we will include an interview today with Ray Savoy, who's joining us to talk about his new project, Golf Clubs, Not Guns, with Randy Johnson and Chris Thomas. Hopefully they'll be with us as well, but we know Ray is here, so we're going to talk about Golf Clubs, Not Guns. Sounds like a great program. And lastly, our reporter, William Ford, will be speaking with Baltimore business owner Mike Rosenbaum, who joins a growing field of candidates campaigning for governor of Maryland. So we have a pretty good show for you. We hope that you'll stay tuned. It's been a busy, busy week in DC. We can say, first of all, congratulations, if that's in order or a correct way to state it, to our police chief and our mayor for the arrest of the young man and some others who were involved in the dangerously and untimely and shooting or killing of 6-year-old Naya, who was killed here on Martin Luther King Avenue just 2 weeks ago. I know the chief said that he was definitely going to put a lot of work behind this case, and his team of police officers did just what they said. And now there's someone, sadly, a 22-year-old who's behind bars, will not get bond, and is being held responsible for Naya's death. At the same time, the family put to rest their loved one, Tyvon, whose last name escapes me for the moment, but who was the young transgender female who was found dead in her home. Her grandfather, Stuart Anderson, who's been sort of my right hand here, or I've been his left arm here at the Washington Informer as we put together the MLK Holiday Parade and Peace Walk. Interesting. That Tyvon was Tyvon's grandfather, and so they have found the suspect responsible for Tyvon's death. And family and friends did a beautiful, beautiful homegoing for him this week as well. On the other side, though, we want to say that the Washington Informer is really, really excited, as we talked to you all about last week, to participate in Safeway's Back to School rally next week on August 4th at its store on 12th Street Southeast near Pennsylvania Avenue. And we want you to come on out. I mean, bring your school spirit. I've been digging through to try to find my Coolidge High School t-shirt, because I'm definitely going to represent Coolidge in the house, as well as the Washington Informer. But you know, this Safeway Back to School rally is a way to raise money to provide school supplies and all the resources that our schools need in the DMV. So yeah, it's almost back to school time, and we want to make sure that everybody comes out and just come by and say hello. I'd like to see you. In addition, it was like a light bulb came on. Do you know that this will be the 40th anniversary of the Washington Informer sponsorship of the Scripps Spelling Bee? And we had this wonderful young lady who won the National Spelling Bee this year. And she made us so proud. But then we're proud to be a part of a competition that now there are so many young people of all races and colors and backgrounds, but they have to be between the 3rd and 8th grades in order to participate. So 40 years we've been sending our finalists representing the District of Columbia. And over the last, I think it's been 6 years that we sponsored for Prince George's County. So we're sending 2 young dynamic spellers to the National Spelling Bee. And who knows, if we work really hard and help and support these young spellers, we might bring home a national champion. That's what it's all about. But right now, we just know that spelling is fantastic. We want to encourage our kids to read, to learn how to spell, because, hey, good spellers become good at everything. So let's support the spelling bee. And you'll hear more about that over the weeks to come. And, you know, this is also, believe it or not, we talked about this earlier in the year. Mahogany Books is opening at National Harbor next weekend. For those of you all who traveled to the Southeast, to Good Hope Road, I'm sure the folks at Mahogany have been especially excited that you walked into their doors and that you continue to support them online with your digital orders of particularly books by African Americans that they sell in the bookstore and online. But now you can go to National Harbor and visit Mahogany Books. So I hope you'll show up. Hopefully we'll have some details about the date of the grand opening and the time, and we can flood there with our masks and wish them congratulations. And talking about masks, are we getting whiplash or what? I mean, we've always said it though. It hasn't ended. The virus is not gone, no matter what you want to label it, whether it's the Delta uh, um, version or whatever it is, it's still there. And so be safe. That's all we can say. Whether you want a vaccine or not, of course, we would encourage you to go ahead and get the vaccine. But we know so many, particularly young African Americans, but young people in general, doctors, nurses, police officers, all kinds of folks are not interested in getting this vaccine. And I haven't heard an argument yet that makes sense to me. But whatever your decision is, stay safe. And we know that masking helps to stay safe. And so until we learn something otherwise, we'll see you at Mahogany Books. We'll see you at the Safeway rally. We will see you everywhere across town. If the mask is not on your face, hopefully, have you noticed how people now have been able to wear the mask on their wrists? That's so cool, right? And we start decorating and have these wrist masks, but at least they're there. And when you need it, you can put it on, because we can't be in these large crowds with a lot of people. And yeah, when we talk, believe it or not, I mean, I've been showered by people who just, when they talk, it just comes out. And so, and you don't realize it until you think back on, boy, how we managed to get through those days. So a mask really protects you, it protects your family, it protects the people that you're interacting with. So continue to mask. And we're excited too, because since it looks like COVID is still going to be with us for a while, we will have Dr. V back again to answer any of your questions that you might have, particularly as it relates to those breakthrough cases, people who've gotten the vaccine, but they're still being infected with the virus, and the fact that they can still pass the virus along, even though they are you are asymptomatic. Interesting things that we want to look at in the weeks ahead. And I'd like to also add that we now have a relationship, the Washington Informer does, with an organization called Fact Check. And what we're posting on our website are any of the things that people are hearing, the rumors, whatever. If you have some questions about coronavirus or anything else, and you want us to run it through and make sure whether it's true or not, reach out to us on our website at washingtoninformer.com and fact check, and we will make sure we get those answers for you. So at this point, we are going to stop now and get our weekly news recap from our broadcast reporter, Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. President Biden is set to announce this week that all federal employees and contractors must get a coronavirus vaccination or be required to submit to routine testing and mitigation measures. Biden is also expected on Thursday to talk about new efforts, including providing incentives to curtail the spread of the Delta variant of the virus. The president continues to urge the nation as a whole to get vaccinated so the pandemic can come to an end. President Joe Biden has nominated 8 people for the U.S. attorney position across the country, including nominees who hail from the District of Columbia and Maryland. Of Biden's 8 nominations, 3 are women and individuals of color, which include Delegate Eric L. Barron. Barron, a member of the Maryland legislature, if confirmed by the U.S. Senate, would be the first African American to hold the position. The other nominees include Nicholas W. Brown, Matthew M. Graves, Clifford D. Johnson, Zachary A. Myers, Rachel S. Rollins, Trini E. Ross, and Vanessa Woldriff. Myers and Johnson would also be the first Black U.S. attorneys for their respective districts if confirmed by the Senate. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention have reversed their coronavirus mask guidances, recommending that even fully vaccinated people resume covering their faces while indoors. CDC Director Dr. Rochelle Walensky said Tuesday that the agency advises people in areas with high or substantial coronavirus transmission rates go back to wearing masks indoors. Roughly 63% of U.S. counties currently have high or substantial rates of transmission, according to CDC data. Simone Biles has withdrawn from the individual all-around competition to focus on her mental health, announced Wednesday by the USA Gymnastics team. The USA Gymnastics team said it supported her decision wholeheartedly and added to their statement that Biles will be assessed every day. Bio still has the opportunity to compete in other individual events during the remainders of the game, having qualified for other apparatuses including the vault, uneven bars, the balance beam, and floor exercise. This is Curtis Knowles with Win TV News.
Thanks so much, Curtis, for bringing us up to date. And I appreciate always your contributions to this program. And one day we're going to have Curtis on just to talk about him. You know, talking about school spirit, Curtis is a recent graduate of Morgan State University. And so we're glad to have him as, a new gatherer. Thank you, Chevry, on the team. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. And speaking of folks in college, I am so excited to bring on Whitman Ochiai, who is a young man about to go to Cornell University, but he has not been letting grass grow under his feet as he has been producing a podcast called, where did I lost it? Yes, Money Ed. Thank you. It just kind of disappeared off my screen there, Whitman. But how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, Denise. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited. Feeling great.
Yeah, congratulations, though, for what are you going to major in at Cornell?
I plan to major in economics at Cornell.
Okay. All right. And so tell us a little bit about yourself before we get into what you have to share with us.
Well, I'll be going to Cornell this upcoming semester. I'm very excited for that. I've been making the Money Ed podcast since the past 3 years, since sophomore year. And ever since, I really have a passion for teaching financial literacy as well as, just learning more about it. I think it's an incredibly important thing to understand. It's an incredibly important thing to know. And it's an incredibly important thing to teach to others and spread.
How did you gain that knowledge or that appreciation for financial literacy at I would say at such a young age, but yeah, at such a young age?
Well, I was very, very lucky in that my parents, I had parents who were willing to kind of indulge my many, many, many questions. So like when I'd be like, Mom, what's the little plastic square thing that you swipe? Don't you have to give them money? And then, my mom would be like, okay, this is a credit card. This is how a credit card works. Or I'd be like, oh, Mom, why do you have to give the government money too? We made money. You made money. Why are you giving back? She's like, no, Whitman, these are taxes, and taxes help keep the nation running. So we pay them because it's their duty as a citizen. But it wasn't until 2018 that it really hit me, the idea to kind of create like a financial literacy podcast and like get into trying to teach financial literacy. Do you remember there's the big government shutdown thing? Yeah. Living where I do close to DC, there are a lot of stories of people in my community who, because of the rent freeze, not the rent freeze, the salary freeze, weren't able to afford things like rent, food, medicine. I know, at the time I was like, well, I know I'm only a high schooler, but I personally believe that everyone has something that they can contribute, and everyone can help work towards, solutions to like problems like these. So I thought to myself, well, what can I do? So I started doing some research, and I found out that there is a significant need for financial literacy education in America, particularly for young people. Did you know that more than 70% of Americans have less than $400 on hand, not counting getting a loan or selling something?
Yeah, I mean, well, I have to say, I do know only because, and I'm cheating because I'm a journalist, so I study these things too. But a lot of people don't know that, and they also don't realize it, particularly in a time of crisis. If they need that extra money for something, they don't have anywhere to go to get it because they don't have it.
Absolutely. So I talked to teachers of financial literacy in my community. I spoke to economists. I spoke to people who do finance for like companies, and got their opinions on kind of what are some things that people should know by the time they kind of enter like the working world. And I decided to, start making a podcast talking about these things and,
Hmm.
try and spread financial literacy like lessons and knowledge, for young people.
So one of the things that I started off with is particularly, everybody, a lot of people always want that summer job, right? I
Right.
want to get a summer job. I need something to do. Really, I need money. I want to make some money. So what do you tell those young folks when they get that summer job paycheck? And right now, a lot of them are getting a little card. They're not getting a check. They don't get cash. They're getting a little card, which they can take that card that someone puts money onto someplace for someone to take money off of. So to me, that doesn't help with saving. But what do you tell young folks about what to do during the summer? What should they do with that money?
Well, I one of the most important things about financial literacy is the fact that there's no such thing as the right way to manage your money. Everyone has different, needs and lifestyles and desires, and you should mold the way you work with your money to fit your lifestyle. I think that as a general rule, it's a great idea to start saving up some money as soon as possible, particularly because if you can get it invested, or you can put in like a savings account, or especially if you invest it, you can take advantage of compound interest over time. And because that interest is compounding over time, the sooner you start saving, the more it's going to pay off in the future. So I definitely think that, you know, if you can, take some of that money and, you know, invest it somehow.
So my father used to tell me all the time, he said, you give 10% to the church, you give 10% to yourself. No matter how much money you get, you take 10% of that and that's yours. Of course, I used to think that was mine to spend. He meant mine to save. But that lesson has stayed with me. Do you have anything like that that you, I mean, I know you said, I agree with you that everybody's needs may be different, but is there something that you would advise to say, this is the equation or the process that you should use about what to do with that money?
Actually, what you said right there, like 10%, take 10% of your money and putting it into your savings. That's actually a really solid personal rule for for building up your savings. Um, I think that like having 10% is kind of like a baseline saving rate is a really great idea, because it kind of ensures that no matter what happens, at least some of that money is going into a place where it's going to be able to build up and pay itself back to you in the future. So I think that is a fantastic rule to follow.
The other thing too, Whitman, which is I'm finding interesting, is that a lot of young people, well, I don't know about a lot, but there are young people who don't believe in banking institutions, right? They don't believe in, they don't trust banks. And then also now we have cryptocurrency, right, which is a fascinating new financial tool that especially, well, I would say young people, but it's all across the world now. Even corporations, are involved. How does that fit into your scenario? One, about the unbanked, and two, about this new currency that should young people consider engaging with.
Well, I'll address what you mentioned about cryptocurrency first, because I think it's just I think that cryptocurrency, it's definitely a very interesting new innovation. I think that as a long-term vehicle for investment, like if you want it, like as a way to like start building up, some savings for the future, I don't think that investing, like buying cryptocurrency, is necessarily uh, the way to go for younger people. Um, I do, I think that like, you should invest in, what makes you comfortable, and but you should invest in what you think is going to pay off in the long run. And the thing about cryptocurrencies is that there's a lot more uncertainty about, which way, they might develop. With, for example, take a company stock. Like the value of a company stock is on some level tied to how well that company is doing. So if you think a company is doing well, or if you think it's going to do better in the future, then you can reasonably expect that the stock has a pretty good chance of increasing in value, or at the very least, not decreasing. The thing about cryptocurrency is there isn't quite as, as direct of a metric to understand whether or not a cryptocurrency might increase or decrease. Like, did you hear about, like, I think it was Elon Musk tweeted about some cryptocurrency and then it like quintupled in value?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I know people who got excited about that, and then it dropped, right? It tanked.
Right. Because
So
it's just,
yeah,
they're fun, they're, interesting, but they're not really long-term investment vehicles.
right. We're kind of running out of time, but two things I wanted to ask you really quickly. One is going back to the issue of the unbanked, and what you have found are attitudes about of younger in people about banking, and then tell us how we can see your podcast or hear your podcast.
Regarding the banks, what you were saying about the banks, I find that a lot of young people, there is a bit of trepidation about getting a bank account, but I would just want to say that generally having a bank account and just having someplace secure to put your money, it's it's going to be generally a pretty safe idea, especially since nowadays there's many safeguards for the money you put in the bank, particularly after 2008. So don't worry. So I would generally say you are safe putting your money in the bank. You are safe using the bank as like a vehicle for savings and compounding and investment. If you want to listen to the Money Ed podcast, we're on a variety of platforms: SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Alexa. So you can actually, if you have like an Echo Dot in your home or something, you can just tell it to play the Money Ed podcast and you can listen to it there. So, or you can just look up the Money Ed podcast on SoundCloud, and you can listen to it on SoundCloud there.
Well, I am really excited about your podcast. I'm excited about, your next few years there at Cornell, and excited about what you're going to do once you get out of there and become this economist or your career goals. I think it's really exciting. And that you're from, you're a home guy. You're from the area, so you know a lot about what high school did you go to?
I went to Thomas Jefferson High School.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Yeah. So, I mean, again, like the Olympics, we're always proud of our folks from the home team. And you're one of those. I mean, we wish you great success. Keep educating, because you're right. Financial literacy is extremely important, and you're never too young to learn it, and you're never too old to do it. So I appreciate the time you're spending with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Denise.
All righty. Have a good one. Yes, indeed. We can't do enough to really share what folks can do. And one of the things we would say, and I'm sure Whitman would agree, when it comes to banks, is establishing a relationship with your bank. When COVID started, everybody said, if you want to, small businesses, if you want to get a PPP loan or whatever it is, pursue that relationship with your bank. And a lot of us just don't have relationships with our banks or our bankers. I would advise everybody for the month of August, because month is Black Small Business Month, and every small business, to just sit down, make an appointment with your banker, and just make sure during the month of August you sit down with them and find out, what you can do, what they can do for you, and what they need to know about you, so that they can do more for you. There are regulations out there that require that these banks support our businesses. There are rules out there that require that they support communities like ours, but they're not going to do it if we don't walk in the door and ask for it, even though they're doing things like advertising with the Washington Informer, which we so greatly support. I mean, and look forward to, and like to convey to our readers, but we can't get you in the door. You have to do that yourself. And so, talking about getting in the door, I'm happy to bring on Barrington Salmon, who has been spending the last 6 months or more looking at this issue of evictions and what's going to happen to residents, not only in the District of Columbia, but this is a national issue, Barrington.
Yes.
Thank you so much. But tell us what
Thank you.
what you've been working on.
I used the idea that you presented to me of looking at eviction, what the eviction landscape looks like in the District of Columbia. And I just basically tease it out nationally because, as you said, it is a national problem. The last statistics I saw maybe a week ago said that there's $70 billion of unpaid rent, and close to 7 million people are at risk of being evicted come tomorrow because the federal evictions moratorium was supposed to last until May, and they extended it until tomorrow. President Biden said that he didn't have the means to extend it. He's asking Congress. He asked Congress like 2 days ago to do something. The likelihood of that happening is, given Congress's past actions, but they a couple of I think the American Family Plan and the other one, they've disbursed $46 billion, but like the Stay DC program, they've been having great difficulties dispersing the money at the lower levels, local level, state, cities, and that type of thing. So I spent a lot of time with activists from Cancel Rent DC, from One DC, and the coalition of activist groups that have been trying to get the Mayor Bowser and the City Council to respond to this. But the thing that we get reminded of by people like Professor Matthew Desmond of Princeton and Professor Emily Benfer, who are two of the foremost researchers on the eviction problem, is that this isn't new. This was with us from a long time ago, and as happens usually in this country, the ones who bear the brunt of it are usually the poor. The statistics suggest that Black women and children are the ones most at risk of ending up being evicted. And once you're evicted, it's very difficult for you to get to get back into a decent place to live. So it's a tough problem. It's an intractable problem, but it's one that's solvable. But there doesn't seem to be the political will yet to do it. I don't know if this will make a difference because if you look at stories and research, one word that they use almost religiously is tsunami.
I was just about to say that. Yeah. Yeah. So exactly.
So,
and
I think
in what context?
This has been the issue's been building for a while. Politicians and policymakers kick the can down the road. They've seen what's coming, and they haven't done anything. It's impossible to look at evictions without looking at the larger context of gentrification, of the absolute lack of affordable housing, and the racial nature of housing in this country. DC is a perfect example. DC has the folks who run the city are always proud to talk about how much they've gentrified. I'm sitting down here in downtown DC, and there are times I look around at the buildings and you don't recognize the place anymore because anywhere that there's a patch of dirt, they put up a building. And $5,000, $2,000, $3,000. Somebody that I spoke to, he said that he was paying $3,300 for a studio apartment.
Interesting.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I want to, because I think we are we know really well, either from personal experience or people that we know about the side of, folks who just have are having a hard time keeping up. But you also took a little time to look at the landlord side.
Yeah.
And realize that they have a story to tell too.
They do.
About how it's about this rental
Yeah.
moratorium and how it's affected them.
There
Talk
are
about
there
that.
there are like three different categories, and I can't think of all of them, the names of them at this moment. But you have a lot of corporate landlords, like these huge entities, business entities that just snap up homes and businesses and that type of thing. And they have been the ones who've been able to weather the storm the easiest because they have a cushion. But you have a lot of small mom and pop type folks who, my mom might have died and left me a house, or I decided to, excuse me, I decided to buy some property and rent it out. And, for the past year, 13, 14, 15 months, they haven't gotten any income from their investments. And there are folks who've walked away. There are folks who made different attempts to get the people that were renting from them to pay. And I think I saw a stat that said between March of last year and this year, about 40% of small landlords have lost what they had, are no longer in this business. So we're going to see the consequences of that because as has racked this country, there's always been this push and pull between when should we open, how do we jumpstart the economy? But you can't jumpstart the economy when so many people aren't working. There's a guy that I interviewed at Council Rent DC had a mock funeral procession at the DC Housing Authority. And there was a young man with his wife, and he said he's working 3 jobs and he's still not able to make enough. He's barely able to make enough to pay the rent. And it's always a juggle. You pay the rent. Do you pay your car note? How much do you have left for food? Don't get sick. He said he got COVID twice. And was home for a month and a half. And luckily for him, the people on his job kept his spot.
We said that's great. We said that this article is a series that you've written that will be coming out in the Informer in coming weeks, which I'm so excited about. Thanks to an investigative journalism grant that we received, and this was the focus of this grant. This is what we wanted you to work on, and you've done a fine job.
Thank
you. We talk about solutions journalism, and we really want to look at the problem, which you've done from more than one perspective, but you also went down the road of some solutions, some opportunities. And so if I can get you to speak to that, I mean, you did talk about the Stay DC program, which the mayor, I think, has done, and the local government has done about everything it can to get people to know about the program. But again, getting folks in to sign up, and then I understand it's really difficult to fill out those applications.
They said the application is a beer, and they said if it's particularly difficult for people, even if you speak English, if you speak another language, it's almost impossible from what I've been hearing.
And so did you come up with anything else besides that might be a lifeline for some of these people who are facing eviction?
There are a number now, and my brain's not working right now, but there are a number of groups. There are lawyers who are doing pro bono. There are legal groups. Bread for the City has been involved working with residents. Emily Benfer, who I talked about earlier, she said that the biggest problem that renters have is that they do not have legal representation. They said 90% of renters do not have legal representation, and 90% of the people that do win. And they said almost all of the landlords have a lawyer. So but they talk about it in broader terms, like housing needs to become a right. They talk about the folks who don't wait until you're in trouble before you before you reach out. Find a lawyer. There are all of these nonprofits in DC that will help you if you reach out, but you got to reach out. They won't know if you don't help them.
Yeah,
And
that's the challenge. Uh-huh.
yeah, I apologize because I should have a list of some people, but I just forgot to do that. But there are a
Well, no,
number of
we want them to read the Washington Informer,
okay,
so
all
that
right,
list will be made available to them. And we are sort of gonna come back and talk about this from a lot of different perspectives because, like you
yes,
said, this quote unquote tsunami is coming. I've heard 15,000 people are behind in their rent in the District of Columbia. That's one
mhm.
number I heard not too long ago.
And they have
And
32,000. They have 32,000 evictions notices. They had 32,000 in 2019. So God only knows how much it is now.
it's yeah, that sounds like a tsunami. Stacy
Yeah,
Brown, I'm so glad when our
Stacy.
viewers add some comments. And so I just wanted to
Yeah,
say Stacy Brown talked about the Biden and Harris administration, and just like the Obama administration bailed out the auto industry and the banks, that there ought to be some kind of program that the administration comes up with to even the playing field, because they know it's coming.
yeah,
And if we've got problems on the streets right now, I mean, think about what it's going to be like, particularly for children.
yes,
That's what scares me, because we're
yeah,
talking about, people being displaced at the beginning of a school year,
yeah.
and what children
Displacement.
have had to go through, with
Yeah,
virtual learning. I mean,
yeah,
how does that work?
yeah.
So,
It's tough. It's going to be tough. And the thing is that you can't hide because it's going to be right in your face. I mean,
right.
my wife Mimi and I, we went around the city, and just about anywhere that you go, you see all of these tent encampments where
Yes,
folks just set
yes.
up tents, like in DC parks and that type of thing. And we spoke to a young man who was kind enough to talk to us, and he was like, he had a job, had an apartment, lost his job, lost his apartment, and he had been living in the street. He said he just got himself sorted out, and he's getting ready to get back on track. But they were, and I mean, this is not just black people, Chinese, white, um, all Latino, all people of all stripes who are being affected. And the thing that I think bothers me most is what you said, Denise, the children, because
Yes.
they're saying because they're already saying that because of COVID, our children, black and brown children, have been left behind because of the lack of broad access to broadband. You have a lot of kids that may not do well in a virtual environment. Our daughter is um, is a high functioning autistic person, and we talk to parents of autistic adults and children, and those children went through hell
Yeah.
because they have to have a
Yeah.
structure. They need a
Right.
structure. They didn't have one. They didn't have access to counselors, doctors, or most of the support that would help keep them balanced and on track. And so, no one's talking about it, but families are quietly dealing with this. So if we care about our children, we need to be making as much noise as possible because these guys are getting lots of money. I mean, we're paying Congress $93 million a year, and most of the time they don't do anything.
Well, Barrington, this conversation could take us in a whole lot of directions, and especially with you. So I enjoy that. But no, I want to just again thank you and your wife Mimi for taking on this project. We look forward
Thank
to
you.
getting it up and going pretty soon. And I'll just say
And we'll
quickly that
continue.
right. It's
We're going
not
to
a one
continue. Yeah.
shot deal, right? But when I think
Yeah.
about the tsunami, I always get this picture. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to visit either Kailicha or Soweto in South Africa, when all the people were displaced, and they created these humongous townships.
Mm-hmm.
People who were homeless, but then found a way to gather together. And the
Yeah.
government provided for it, but it's still quite a sight to see. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's what I'm seeing in my mind if
Yeah.
we don't get this problem resolved. So thank you very much for being with us today and sharing this
Thank you.
information. And I want people to look out for this. we'll give you the date when the series begins to run. It should be in mid-August. And, reach out to us. Let us know your stories. We'll have some way for
Yes,
you to reach
please.
out to us. Yeah,
Please,
because we
please.
want to talk about your situation as well. Barrington, thank you so much.
Yes.
Mimi, thank you
Thank you
for
so much.
watching. Stacey
Appreciate it.
Brown, thanks for
Stacey.
weighing in. And
Hi, Mimi.
we'll talk to you soon. All righty. Yes, yes, yes. This means a lot to us. And we're, again, not wanting necessarily to stay so focused on the problem, but the solutions. We want to find a safe place, a place that people trust, that we can help people during this crisis. And Barrington and his wife, I think, are through their articles and storytelling, through print and visuals, we're going to do our part to make a difference here. And of course, Stacey Brown covers news nationally, so he's on board as well. We're going to move really quickly because the time is flying to get with Ray Savoy, who is addressing another problem affecting our community, and that's these crazy, crazy guns. We have Randy Johnson and Chris Thomas on as well. We're going to talk about what is it? Golf, not guns.
Yes, yes.
Okay, Ray, tell us what it is and how you all came up with this. I mean, I love this idea, particularly at this time when people are looking for solutions.
There's been a lot of violence in the DC area, and I'm a person that is mostly proactive in what we try to do. And the thought process came to me that we can use the slogan of taking up golf clubs and not guns, stopping the violence. And I had a gentleman to do a great job on our T-shirts that we will be passing out to our young people. That's going to be coming from various communities and different organizations.
All right.
Just to give a plug in for gentleman Jazz up at Emory Recreation. He's a tailor who looking for people who have ideas and designs that they like to put out there and can market. Right now, I do have two gentlemen on board with me who have been working in the streets, in the programs that are very, very vital to our young people. You know, of course, Denise, I'm about our young people, about
Yes, you
serving
are.
our youth.
Right.
So, first of all, I have Randy Johnson here. He's with the Alliance of Concerned Men. I'll have also Brother Chris Thomas, who's working with the 100 Fathers Incorporated, plus he has other products. So right now, Denise, I will step back and let these gentlemen do their thing, give you some information, and hopefully we have time that I can give you the wrap up of what's happening.
Okay, fantastic. Randy, Chris, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, Ms. Denise.
I'm so admire the Alliance of Concerned Men and all the work that you all do. So tell us, how did you all get involved in this project?
Who you want me to go first? Or
Yes.
Sure.
Chris
Mr. Tyrone Parker invited me to sit at the round table with this illustrious guy, Mr. Savoy, and a couple other gentlemen, and they wanted to get my perspective from a middle-aged guy perspective on what can be some of the solutions that we can do to help cure this gun violence in the city. So that's how I got brought into the mix with Mr. Savoy through Tyrone Park and the Alliance of Concerned Men.
Are you a golfer?
I'm an amateur golfer. I'm a putt guy.
Okay, we can play together then.
Yeah,
I'm a Ray Savoy golfer dropout. He started with me, but I didn't do my homework, so I have an incomplete. Chris, tell us about your involvement.
How you doing again, Miss Bonds?
Oh, good.
Chris Thomas. I'm affiliated as a community engagement officer under Franklin Malone of 100,000 Incorporated. Ray
Fantastic.
Savoy. He is one of our council of elders. Actually, we just finished up a really large Baloo Manhood to Brotherhood program before COVID, and obviously since then the gun violence has gotten a little out of hand. And Mr. Savoy knows I'm very involved in the community. So he's made sure that I'll be a part of this project, and appreciate him for even thinking of me in this time of need.
How about you? What you ever play golf?
Uh, I'm pretty good. I'm not.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
you know. I like to do more of the driving range and see how far it goes, but I think I need more accuracy, a little more of the boys' help, like you said.
All right. I was gonna say because we find one more non-golfer, we'll have a good foursome. We can Chevy's one, and show folks, how golf can be a lot of fun, and it's a great place, a great safe place to be, and to learn. Other than some of these other activities, and you all have been right in the thick of it, both of you all, the Alliance and Concerned Fathers as well. I know you all have been in the thick of it, and Ray. I mean, how is it that golf is gonna, how are you,
Uh,
kind of making this
golf
connection?
golf is basically a tool that we can introduce the young people that these gentlemen can bring to us. Uh, Something different, something new. Uh, but the whole idea behind it is to have sessions with them, talks with them about having a second thought rather than picking up that gun. They pick up a golf club and have fun doing that. We do have also the DC Department of Recreation and Parks, the Roving Leader program, and then there's another group that just joined us recently that does very good work in the community. So we do have groups that are out there, and basically my thoughts and concept was to more or less offer these young people an alternative to picking up that gun. Uh, and it's something that I feel that going to be very workable with these men and their effort and desire to help our young people. It's a thing that we talk about saving lives, which is great. But if we can save maybe one life or two lives in this process, it is something that I think is very vital and important. And of course, all over the city, we have stopped the violence, and we have the mayor and her committee talking about these things. Personally, Ray Savoy is a doer.
Right. And I think that's been really, really great. And, they say some of the best deals are made on the golf course.
Yes,
But, those kind of conversations that you all can have with young people while you're, teaching them how to golf or just having fun on the golf course, just understanding how businesses interact, I don't know, but anyway, it just
yes,
I need to be out there more often so I can find out what is actually happening on those golf courses. And I think kids will really learn from that. They need distractions, they need something else to do.
yes.
And I think this is fantastic. So the two of you all, Randy and Chris, I mean, you have a group of young people you've been working with, and are they looking, I mean, how do they feel about this opportunity?
I feel for myself, I think it's great exposure. Education and exposure is great, especially in the black community, because a lot of us haven't been exposed. We,
Right.
we, we are exposed to more likely traditional sports, basketball, football. But I think this is a great way, this is a great initiative that Mr. Savoy put together to expose these young men and even women per se to learn the game of golf. They call it the gentleman's sport, or we call it the gentleman or the gentlewoman's sport. But I think it's a great way of exposure to the youth in our community because they don't know.
Right.
Actually, we won several Alliance Concernment. Now we running several programs now, initiatives. Credible Messenger. I also happen to be a credible messenger myself. Another program we run is conflict resolution, something that we talk about. Yeah, we have a class 4 days a week on conflict resolution, and it was a collaboration with. Actually, I got the manual in front of me with American University.
Wow, wonderful. I remember when you all produced that. Yeah.
Yes. And we're the only organization to have that now. We have these classes every day, and as you can see, the commitment from the kids to come. So just giving them something else to I guess tickle their straw, so to speak, with this golf and learning about golf and incorporate that with conflict resolution and with this brother Thomas. I think we can have some good results coming out of this.
Wonderful, Chris. And have you gotten any reaction from some of the young people you're working with about the opportunity?
Yes, ma'am. Just like Mr. Johnson said, I concur. A lot of young youth in this area, they haven't really been outside of the Maryland, D.C. area. So we're just trying to introduce them something new. With golf, you have to do a lot more concentration. Like Mr. Savoy says, you have to be more professional in your etiquette, in your manners, in your attire, how you present yourself. So we just want to give them something else to look at, something else, like you said, to distract them. With Langston being the only black course in the DMV, and some of these young gentlemen don't know about it, but have been up and down Bennett Road hundreds of times. We need to come on over here, man. This is pretty too. I'm gonna tell them, look, Tiger Woods, he made a career out of it.
That's right.
And all be different with it. But the youth, they're excited about it. What we're gonna do, like Mr. Johnson said, where he's gonna be helping with the conflict resolution. Me and Mr. Joe Houston, with We Fit DC, who's very known with the wellness piece, we're gonna be doing some de-escalation and a few skits with them with situation awareness, because the youth, we want them to really just gravitate to us. And what, like Mr. Savoy said, if you could help just one, we want it to be contagious. And if just 1 or 2 say, man, golf is actually a little bit fun, y'all. Everybody want to do golf, but they don't want to come out and do, the golf course. So we just going to collaborate and really work together. I really appreciate Mr. Johnson, all of Alliance of Concerned Men, Credible Messengers, Mr. Savoy. We are putting just many powerful black men in this area together, and we really just want to make it relatable and be the mentors that we are and really pour into the young men.
Well, I'm really excited, and Mr. Savoy, as you know, he's my hero. And he just never gives up. That's what we need, people that can maintain hope in our community and in our young people. And I want to add that Stacy Brown, who also has a program with the National Newspaper Publishers Association, just stated that he would like to invite you all or feature you all for NNPA, because the NNPA has just signed a memorandum of understanding with the PGA Tour and PGA of America. So who knows? That could open up some more doors, some funding, all that. So that's what this is all about, on behalf of the kids. So thank you, Stacy, for that, and we'll make sure we can get you in touch with Mr. Savoy. And I want to thank the 2 of you all, or the 3 of you all, for being with us today.
Yes.
And good luck. Let us know when we can do some stories with some of the when you all get out there on the course.
One quick thing is that please let your audience know that your gentleman who designed the T-shirt, he's working out of Emory Recreation Center.
Okay.
And he wants to have beginners who want to get into fashion.
Oh,
can be a job for them, how to design their own.
Wonderful.
So, which is so important, that there are different ways that we can get young people involved, get them employed, and to offer them a different way of life. Period.
Yes, yeah. Mr. Boyd,
you got to be in the game. You got to
be in the game. That's right. That's right.
Stand on that sideline and talk about it. You got to be about it.
All right. Thank you all so very much. Randy, you have one more thing?
Yeah, I just want to butt in for a second. We're also going to have speakers there. some guys and women to come through and speak to the youth while we
Oh,
teach
good.
this course. So I just wanted to put that out there too, so they know.
Okay. Well, we'll follow up because
Okay.
this was just an intro to what you all are doing and sharing it with the community. But we got, this is a long story. It's a long haul, right? Because it's a lot of work that has to be done, and we want to show solutions, how we made a difference, and how you all made a difference. So it's all good. Thank you so much. Have a great one. Have a good weekend. See you, Mr. Savoy. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. So I want to say, boy, time has really flown, and we're kind of after hours now. But I want to turn the show over to Will Ford because he has a great guest coming on. Again, we're talking about this governor's race in the state of Maryland that's just heating up because people are jumping in. So Will, I want to roll here. Will, thank you so much for being with us, for taking over. I'm going to go after this so you can close out the show for us today. And we'll follow up and kind of see, what's going to happen out there in Maryland. It's quite a race forming.
It will be, especially after Labor Day. Once children go back to school and schedules start getting set, it's going to fly then. All
right. Well, go ahead and introduce your guest, and I'm turning it over to you.
Thank you. Coming up will be Maryland gubernatorial candidate Michael Rosenbaum. And if you didn't know about him, he worked for the Clinton administration, and there he is. Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. And as I mentioned, before we get into a little bit of nuts and bolts, how was it working with President Clinton?
So I confess I was many layers down inside the Clinton White House. So to say that I was working directly with President Clinton would definitely be an overstatement. I was an economist in the weeds, working originally on tech stuff and then on how we think about different communities across the country that have historically been undervalued. And so that's what I was working on. But I met him, but did not work directly with him.
That's all right. But did some of what you learned with your work as an economist help transcend to make this decision to run for governor?
Absolutely. So I've dedicated my whole life to the idea that talent's everywhere, but opportunity isn't. And that if we don't solve that basic problem, if we can't match talent with opportunity so that each person has a pathway to economic security, then our communities can collapse. And that's what I worked on as an economist. And that's why, actually, after working as an economist, I ended up moving to Baltimore because in Baltimore, there was a GM plant and a Bethlehem steel plant that were on their last legs. And historically, there had been a swath of our communities who had pathways because of the relationship between organized labor and manufacturing and industry into middle-class jobs and into economic security. And those jobs were going away. And so the question is, what's next? And so I had originally started a nonprofit organization that was called Catalyst, that was using data to identify folks that the market for jobs didn't realize were awesome, and then provide economic security and training so that folks could move into tech jobs. And when I couldn't get any folks to support the nonprofit, I shut down the nonprofit and started a for-profit company to do the same thing. And I grew that company, and for a bunch of years, frankly, people didn't care that much. And then we got lucky. And in 2011, we got a deal with Nike to build out teams to do one of the early step trackers called the Fuel Band. And that work was actually done in the DC Baltimore area, the tech work for that. And it was done with folks who a couple generations earlier might have been working at the GM plant and now might be cobbling together, cleaning rooms in a hotel or working as cashiers or working in an Amazon warehouse. And so then that company grew, and the average income in someone's last job before entering that company is $25,000 a year, and average income 5 years later is $98,000 a year. And then I started a second company that did something similar in healthcare, which, in healthcare, the big question is sort of how do we move folks into jobs like RN or manager, where we're not cobbling together minimum wage jobs, but we have middle income jobs. And I was growing these companies, and they're decent sized companies. The first company, thousands of folks in Maryland and elsewhere have been through that company. The second company is in 18% of the US healthcare workforce. But I realized I was growing these companies, but the world's moving the wrong direction. You know, a couple segments ago, Denise and Barrington were talking about homelessness and talking about folks losing their homes because they were losing their jobs. And in Maryland, we have a higher unemployment rate than most states, you know, and yet other places can't hire. And the question is, you know, what can we do about it? And COVID obviously exposed this problem and accelerated it. It was already there. It was getting worse. COVID made it much worse, accelerated it. And the question is, how are we going to change our economy in the state and in the region to make sure that every single person has a pathway to a middle income job or a high income job? And that's what we actually have the ability to do. It's not impossible to do. We just haven't done it because the state has historically been focused on symptoms rather than causes. We spend huge amounts of money on healthcare for folks who are severely poor, but we don't spend much money to make sure that folks aren't poor. And what we need to be doing is spending massive amounts of money in order to ensure that everyone has economic security and training to be able to move into a career that allows each person to move into a middle income or high income job. And we actually have the tools to do it.
Interesting you brought that up. I was going to ask about a solution, because there could be some resonance, some on the other side of the aisle. The Republicans may say, well, we don't have enough money to spend to do this. So where would you get the money from? And how would you be able to do that?
Absolutely. But we do have the money, right? So we're already spending massive amounts of money on symptoms. We're spending massive amounts of money on healthcare for folks who make less than $20,000 a year. It would cost us less money to hire everyone so that no one made less than $20,000 a year than it would for us to continue providing healthcare for folks who are severely poor. And the reason is that there's a close relationship between economic security and healthiness. So again, the topic that Denise and Barrington were talking about was what happens when you lose your job and you were already on the edge, and now you're living in a tent. So you don't have air conditioning, you don't have a refrigerator, and you may not have access to healthcare. And it makes you less healthy. And as a result, we spend lots of money to ensure that folks have healthcare rather than spending the money to make sure that folks have a job and are able to develop the skills so they're not stuck in a minimum wage job 30 years later, but actually have a pathway up to a $40 an hour job and a $45 an hour job and a $50 an hour job. And if we do that, then we solve the other problems. So we're already spending the money, we're just spending it the wrong way. We don't actually need to spend more money. If anything, we'd save money by doing this rather than spend more.
Interesting. Thank you. I wanted to transition topics real quick. You probably been able to follow what's been going on in the Maryland General Assembly, the 90-day session in Annapolis. And criminal justice reform was one of the major issues besides COVID-19, obviously. And there are activists and advocates statewide who believe such things as much citizen input and control should be implemented in policies during the next 90-day legislative session that will begin in January. So what are your thoughts, sir, on criminal justice reform, and what have you seen Maryland has done well and what it can do better?
So obviously, as governor, I would work hand in hand with the criminal justice system, the criminal legal system, you know, and the General Assembly to ensure we have police accountability and ensure that we sort of deal with some of the underlying structural issues in the economy. I spent a year as a student criminal defense attorney in Massachusetts, working with someone who had been at the DC Public Defender Service named Charles Ogletree, and I worked in a place called Roxbury District Court, and I was living in, which is a neighborhood in Massachusetts, and I was living in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And you know, I would sit in Roxbury District Court, and I would look around, and there were lots of folks in Roxbury District Court who were charged with possession of cannabis. Sitting there in the court because they were charged with possession of cannabis. There was no one in Cambridge, Massachusetts who was charged with possession of cannabis. And so some of the basic structural problems obviously need work. And I think this last General Assembly, there was some significant positive movement on it. But I think there's actually a bigger question, which is we keep spending more money on the criminal justice system and we keep spending more money on things like law enforcement, but we don't seem to get better outcomes. And when we think about it, you know, no one's born planning to, you know, end up ensnared in the criminal justice system. No one is born that way. And yet some folks end up finding themselves ensnared in the criminal justice system either unjustly or because of a lack of economic opportunity. And if we don't solve the core problem, which is lots of folks are either pushed out of the workforce or unemployed, or are stuck trying to cobble together a life at minimum wage. If we don't solve the problem of creating economic opportunity and creating pathways of economic opportunity so that there are opportunities for each person to find dignity, we're never going to solve the bigger picture set of questions, which obviously we need to solve in the criminal justice system, but we need to think of as part of a more coherent whole.
There's got a couple of questions left, sir. And just more of a general sense, if you were governor now and you see what the Delta variant is doing throughout the country, would you implement any COVID restrictions such as mandating mask inside public buildings, let's say, or at least maybe for state employees?
So I actually think that the governor has done a pretty good job dealing with COVID issues generally. I think there's obviously more that we could do. We certainly could, I think the governor has a lot of room for improvement in terms of working with community leaders and faith leaders to ensure that vaccines get to folks who aren't getting them, or maybe reluctant to get them. But I think the bigger question for us is, how do we make sure that we sort of continue rolling out vaccines? How do we make sure that we sort of continue vaccinating folks so that we're inoculated from the Delta variant? And how do we think about the downstream effects of COVID, which again, obviously we've got the sort of COVID stuff to deal with today, but COVID itself, whatever ends up happening with the Delta variant, the impacts to so many in our communities, for folks who have lost their jobs and have lost the tenuous, economic stability that they had, if we don't lean in hard on creating pathways to restructure our economy on the other side of this and take advantage of the opportunity that we all are now increasingly recognize that is the problem, that's actually the task of the next governor, and that's actually what I'll be focused on.
And I have just two more questions, sir. A question came in about taxes. Mm-hmm. And as a matter of fact, being that you're an economist, this is right up your alley.
Right up my alley.
There was a discussion actually last night, District 6, Prince George's County Council. And a couple of the candidates mentioned, actually all four of the candidates who were on, mentioned about a couple of concerns in that particular district. All four of them said property taxes because of how about 70% of Prince George's County residents, the property taxes, and 30% are from commercial development. Will you look at cutting taxes anywhere, especially with property taxes? And if you can give a quick summary of that, please.
So property tax, I live in Baltimore City. So property taxes are actually a core structural problem that needs to get dealt with. It actually is dealt with at a local level, not a state level. But I think the bigger thing the state can do to give local jurisdictions flexibility to cut property taxes, because they're so inefficient, right? They are so inefficient. The bigger thing we can do as a state to give local jurisdictions that flexibility is to broaden the tax base. That if the tax base is broader and more folks are moving into middle income jobs, we generate more top line revenue, not by increasing or decreasing tax rates, but just by the virtue of more people are employed in middle income jobs. So if we took the couple 100,000 folks who are unemployed in the state, and did what I'm talking about, and that group of people ended up moving along the income trajectory of my first company, which again, thousands of folks in Maryland and nationally have done. If we were to do that, then we would increase general fund revenue at the state level by $2 billion a year, just in state income taxes. That gives us flexibility to do other things. That gives us the flexibility at each local jurisdiction level to massively cut property taxes, because those property taxes, again, are so inefficient in the way that we sort of think about how the pieces fit together.
And finally, sir, so when you're not out campaigning, what do you get to do just to relax yourself?
So I have a 13-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old daughter. And so I will take any minute they will give me to actually talk to me. There are
like
not many minutes I get.
dad.
Not many minutes I get, but any minute they will give me, I will take.
Understand. Well, sir, Mr. Mike Rosenbaum, thank you very much for this time, and good luck on the campaign trail. Much appreciated.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. And as Denise said, we are wrapping up Win TV. For everyone who's still online, thank you for joining us. We will see you next week. Take care.
It's Friday, and I'm just going to be frank. DMV has showed out these last 7 days. I couldn't even keep up with all the trending topics happening here. But you know I got you though. From crowning, to Rolling Loud, to Michael Jackson. Ladies and gentlemen, here are the trending topics of the DMV. Welcome to What's Going On, DC. Hey, I'm your boy, the Media Prince. Let's get straight into it. Rolling Loud, need we say more? DMV was high and in effect. Let's just say Wale, Rico Nasty, and Young Manny sure as hell had an epic time. Take a look.
Let's rumble. Nah, we gonna rumble. Yeah, man. Excuse me. Back up, period.
Congratulations goes to IDK for receiving his first #1 on Billboard. And he just announced his 2021 tour starting in August. Congratulations. Hey, Virginia, Kevin Gates really loves y'all. Take a look.
I saw the load of Virginia. Caught a play in Southeast DC. Then I took a boat to Virginia. Have you ever been criticized for nothing?
Hey, DC, take a quick look at the new Washington football team's dance team.
Drew on the key, so this not.
Hey, DMV, are you excited for this new dance energy coming your way? We want to hear from you. Congratulations goes to the beautiful Sasha Perea for becoming our new crowned Miss District of Columbia, USA 2021. Take a quick look. DMV's own Ade and Wale link up with Travis Scott. Y'all see the picture right here, right? Do we smell a hit in the works? We're definitely here for it. The Media Prince was outside this past weekend for the inaugural Black Greek Fest. Take a look.
It was really important for me and my team, should I say, me and my team to put this together because, you know, merging community and Black Greek life, you know, as Greeks, we're meant to serve, you know.
Really, it's overwhelming. It's been such a great experience. It's been a very humbling experience. It's been a kind of a reclamation for me in some ways because I have not been as involved in my graduate chapter as I would like to be, and this just kind of reinvigorated the reason why I decided to join my organization.
Congratulations to Shogun and Matt Jack as they welcome back the Factory Radio, and this time at the Eaton Hotel. Take a look.
Back for my plate. Nigga, we was trapped behind the gate. Now we feasting in the jealous nigga face. Said I'm back for my plate. Yo, yeah. We was trapped behind the gate. Now we feasting in the jealous nigga face. Said I'm back for my plate. Yeah.
Shy Glizzy with new music.
I turn it to champagne. Say Glizzy supposed to be on top. You know they rigged the game. I wish I could stand on the block all day, but shit just ain't the same. So I tell her to get by myself and get over thinking shit like what am I doing?
this is epic. DC's own Backyard Band performs with Little Duval. Take a look, courtesy of Baller Alert. Congratulations to DMV's own Miles Frost, who will play the Michael Jackson on Broadway in the MJ the Musical. This is so damn huge. Someone from our area will be playing the icon. Oh, we're definitely getting our tickets. How about y'all? Our favorite Potomac housewife, Candace, is back with new music and a new visual. Take a look.
Got me pissed off from my head down to my shoes. Boy, I swear I'm over you. Kick my heels 3 times and right back home. Bring it back to you so you can put it down. What you got, you make me drive back. Hit it when we come in contact.
DMV's own Brent Fayez has a new song that is featured for the new Facebook Olympic commercial. Take a look.
Let the smoke clear. I got diamonds proving to be sliding both ears. Dice rolling on a Las Vegas strip tonight. Slip that on and we might miss the fight. I keep the wallet in my shorty bag. Know she wanted mine when she tattooed that.
Have you ever wondered what the metro station's map looked like if it went everywhere in the DMV? Well, DMV's own Ron Thompson decided to create it. Take a look and tell us if you can see where your station is. Well, I told y'all the area was freaking lit. And if you had any doubts that the area is working, I hope that notion has faded. And I challenge you all to get to work because the DMV is on fire. So until next week, we are headed out. For all this and more, head over to wibridgedc.com to read up and catch up on all the bridge greatness. Follow our YouTube and hit the hashtags WGODC and WIBridgeTMP style. Okay, we're signing off. See you next week.
Sometimes I wonder. Sometimes I wonder if this thing's for me. Am I patiently waiting on what's supposed to be? I'm an A-rap, a real ass if I speak on the stuff I had some real troubles with. See, I ain't the type to talk gunplay and trap houses. I'm the type that wear heels and some nice blouses. If you're thirsty, my pizza provides water fountain and got the will about it. So make your bloody moves. They're talking about this shit that they don't really do. I wonder when they say they eatin' if it's really true. Mind-boggling, top tiers, I'm topping them. My peers is optionless. I spit some proper. Wondering why. Wondering why. Wondering why. Why wouldn't I be sitting here, my mind explore? Wonder can I do it like never before? Something so elusive, I assure, yeah. Look, very explicit when it comes down to my business. Rated R, I don't really do shit for the children. I'm the bomb, and stay up in my DM. Recent, leaking, under my pictures geeking. Wonder if you got a girl or are you just peeping? This game ain't nothing to fuck with, don't play it just for reason. Wonder if I'm overthinking, maybe I'm just reaching. I'm gone, I just think I'm headed off the deep end. Wonder if I can be sister for a weekend. Trying to see if maybe shorty worth keeping. Focus, yeah, I'm smoking something potent, and that's why Cloud 9 now floating. Wondering why. Wondering why. Why when I be sitting here, my mind explore. Wonder can I do it like never before? Something so elusive, I assure. Why? Look. survival of the fittest. If you break before you bend, you ain't winning. Can't stand it, talk about the kitchen. Need a bandage, I cut so vicious. I be throwing major shade, baby, they just miss it. Sweet, then I'm sour, switching like pigments. Give me about an hour, I'm thinking something different. I wondering if I can make a difference. I ain't a chicken here, my head's in the right direction. Don't you ever think I won't check you in a second. Don't press shit, when it rains it pours. I'm coming heavy this year, what's next? I ain't sure, yo, I ain't sure. Hey, and I ain't sure. What's up, lady, DA, ME. Describe my creative process as very slow, and I take my time. The first thing I listen to is the beat. I make sure I like the production, and the second thing, I always try to come up with like a hook first, just to kind of get the vibe of the verses kind of going, because really once you got the hook, everything is pretty, solid after that. So I kind of play with cadences a lot, so if I hear a certain beat that I like, I'm automatically like, let me record the cadence of how I would like for it to sound. So I'm like, I'm just mumble rapping, and I come up with the words later. I spit some proper. Wanna describe being a female artist in this industry. It can be tricky. There's a lot of ups and a lot of downs. Some of the ups include people want to work with you because you are a woman, and if you're attractive, that gives you extra points sometimes. The downfall is, I didn't want to go more on to the pros, but to the cons, it gets difficult because people may solely want to work with you because you look a certain way, and so they will surpass the talent and every other thing that you can offer because your looks. So focusing and people not working and not really paying attention to what's supposed to be going on. So that's one of the downfalls. I can be sister for a weekend, trying to see if projects out I have now is Daneville. That was my first EP. I have a couple of singles out. The most recent single is Dance All Night, which is the pop record. I was kind of trying to go a bit differently with my sound, so the pop is where it's at, but yeah, that's out on every platform. And I'm coming out with some new singles and some more new records before this year. Do it like never before. Something so elusive. Follow me at Lady Dame Official. It's LADYDAME Official. That's my Twitter handle, my TikTok handle, and all that good stuff. Oh, I forgot to tell them the music too. Where to find the music, right? Yeah. Okay. You guys can find my Spotify, iTunes, Apple, SoundCloud, all that good stuff. Also, Lady Dame. If I can make a difference, I ain't a chicken here, my head's in the